Good morning and welcome back to the Dev Mentor Dave YouTube channel. We are streaming live this morning here on Saturday, March 7th. Yes, March 7th. Uh, Live here at 10 a.m. Every Saturday, hopefully, moving forward, most of the time, as we are jumping back into our live streaming schedule. Obviously, took several months off. If you weren't here a couple weeks ago when we jumped on, then you probably don't know what's going on. But too bad. Go watch that live stream. It was short. It was only like 30 minutes. So there you go. But we're back now. Last week I was planning on doing a live stream, and unfortunately, Google had an outage for over a day. I think it was the longest outage I've ever seen Google Fiber have. Like every once in a while, you get a little something, something would happen. So I don't even know exactly what the issue was. I never saw any like real resolution. Just saw that it was fixed. So I'll have to dig into that and see if I can find out what the issue was. I would assume, since it took them that long to fix it, I would assume something blew up or was very badly damaged. There's some construction going on around us here, so I wouldn't be surprised if somebody cut something and it took them a while to figure out exactly what and where, would be my guess. So got some coffee this morning. I've actually been up pretty early, doing some stuff at the church this morning, so it'll be it was good morning, Dan. Good to see you. It was a bad use effect hook. That's also very possible. That's hilarious. I love it. For those of you that don't know what Dan's talking about, spend some time learning React. So, and you'll see the dangers of the use effect hook. Excuse me. I'm also kind of battling a little bit of a cold. I had it actually last week, and that was another reason why I was okay with not having our live stream last Saturday, because I was still kind of getting over that. But it's kind of started to come back a little bit here in Kansas City. The weather's been kind of up and down. It got really warm for like a whole week, and then we ended up with some colder weather here over the last few days, and actually had a really good thunderstorm last night. Um, so my voice has been a little scratchy, things like that. So I'm planning on trying to keep this about an hour today, as we kind of walk through some things around our project. I know there was some brief discussion in the Discord server. I didn't participate, but around the upcoming project. This will probably have some elements of a group project. I don't want to necessarily just make it a group project overall, but we'll probably open it up again to people who want to participate, more from a private connection standpoint rather than like a public thing, because this is going to be something for an actual business, and I don't want to just give everybody access to their repository randomly in the world. So it's probably not a good idea. So just to kind of get everybody caught up, if you're watching this later on, get everybody caught up in what we're going to be working on. So there's a company that I have interacted with for a number of years now. A really cool product, at least one that I think is cool. I'm not like a super like environmentalist or anything like that. So that part of it isn't like a huge deal to me. I think it's good to take care of our. Ooh, excuse me, starting early. I think it's good to take care of our world, and do the best that we can. But I'm not like uh, I'm not crazy about it. So that side of it isn't that big of a deal to me. But I just think the technology is cool, and I think it's interesting how it's kind of evolved over the years, that I've been following them. That company is called Solar Roadways. They actually have a funding campaign going on right now, trying to get them to a place where they can actually start doing full on production of the panels, the SR5 or SR6 panels. I think they're getting close to SR6. I'll have to double check that. But uh, yeah, so we're gonna kind of go through a process of revamping their website. You can go to it right now. It's solarroadways.com. We'll look at it here in a minute. Um, in fact, I just noticed something happened. A lot of the content on the homepage is missing, and I'm not sure exactly why, because it was there last time I touched it. So I've kind of been volunteering to help them out with their website. They have a WordPress website. Um, it's one of those things where the person who built it just included all kinds of plugins and things, and it became a monster very quickly, and we just haven't had the time to sit down and redo it. I would have redone it in WordPress a few years ago, but we're gonna do it a little bit differently this time. We're gonna build it in Laravel. We'll probably use some sort of front end framework like Vue or React. I haven't decided which one. I think we'll probably stick with React because I know a lot of people like that and are used to it. But we're going to rebuild the website. But we're gonna add some content management into it. But we only want to add the things that really need content management, right? So we're going to have to think through, and part of the process of doing this live, we'll be thinking through all those different things that we really need or don't need. And so that's one of the things I want to start with here this morning. Yeah, we will use Inertia because it's built in. I really like the Laravel starter kits. Um, they actually just started one for Svelte now as well, and then of course they have Livewire as well too. So so that might be something we could dig into at some point. But I'm not a huge Livewire fan. I don't I get the idea behind it, but I don't know. I like the other JavaScript frameworks. Yeah, I haven't used it enough, Dan, really to have a good opinion. I think in my opinion. So so anyway, but one of the things I wanted to do um, is kind of help everybody go through more of a process of understanding how would we do something like this instead of just diving in and saying, here's the design, here's the plan, this is what we're going to do, here's some tickets, let's build this thing out. Instead of doing that, I really want to um, kind of walk through that process. And we sort of did that a little bit when we were doing the development of the budgeting software that we started last year, or yeah, I think it was last year. Um, but I really want us to dive deeper into the process, because here's what I'm discovering. I think we're getting to a place where there will always be a need for companies like the one that I work for, where we develop software for businesses, because there's always going to be a need for an established company of developers that know what they're doing. They've been developing software for a long time, to build out software quickly, efficiently, and accurately for different businesses, right? But I think we're also entering a time of what I like to call micro application development, and this has really come about with the advent of AI, with the advent of agentic processes in AI, and the advent of really anyone being able to vibe code an application, right? You see, I mean, all you had to do is watch the Super Bowl this year, and you saw a number of advertisements for AI companies. And one of the big things that they're really pushing is the ability for anybody to build anything is kind of the idea, right? Now, we have to be careful, because there's a lot of issues when you just start telling people that everybody can build anything with AI, because those of you who have been building things by yourself or with AI know that there's a lot that goes into it outside of just vibe coding an application. But I truly believe that we're entering an age where I think we're going to have even more and more opportunity for freelance developers to to make an income and a living, um, where it might have been harder before. Um, Dan says AI build app, no security problems, no mistakes, please. Yeah, good luck with that prompt. That's a very simplistic prompt there, Dan. I would be interested, Dan, since you've been a developer for a while, how much you're engaging with AI and how much what the areas that you think it's helping you. Maybe we should jump on a live stream together at some point and just and have a discussion around that. Um, but I think one of the problems, kind of that Dan's pointing out is you can't just ask AI to build something. There's still a process that you need to go through, you need to think through, and I think AI can actually help us in that process as well. But we need to know what we're doing so that AI can help us do it faster and maybe do it better. But we still need to know what we're doing, and I think that we're starting to hit a place where a lot of companies that may not have had their own dev department are going to start seeing the benefits of having somebody who knows the basics of coding, who can come in and use AI to build out applications for them internally. I think we're going to see that. Again, I don't think that's going to necessarily kill the SaaS business. I don't think that's necessarily going to kill companies like the one that I work for, where you're going to need something more verbose, more secure, things like that. But we're getting to a place where you can build out little applications to do something or to automate something. Or, I mean, shoot, you could use just like Claude Cowork to do a lot of things just randomly for you that you need to. But I think we're getting to a place where a lot more developers are going to have more opportunities because of AI. And again, this is the thing, you know, everyone's all up in arms about AI taking jobs or removing the need for specific developers, and I think that's where the mind shift needs to go. We're so worried about losing our jobs to AI that we're not looking for the opportunities that AI is actually opening up. The applications that out there, you got like Lovable, Base 44, probably a number of others. There's all kinds of systems that are out there. You've got like N8N, which is an automation process that you can connect into, like ChatGPT or something like that, and start using agents inside of workflows. There's using things like AI, like Claude Code or like Codex, to actually build out applications to do something right there on your computer. I have built out so many throwaway applications that are like literally one-time use applications. And I think there's an opportunity there for us, not even necessarily to sell our own products, although I think there's opportunity for that as well. But there's opportunity for us to interact with small businesses, medium-sized businesses, maybe even get our foot in the door for a job, but just help them build out little things that are going to help them move faster, make better decisions. But the defining characteristic that we bring to the table is that we understand code. And so that's why I want to really encourage you. I'm almost kind of doubling down on this project and on this live stream, this channel, whatever it's called, doubling down on this being specifically for junior developers, because I have a series in mind that I want to do here of videos, because I truly believe, while there are going to be a lot of developers kind of out in the cold right now, if we can change the way that we think about where the opportunities are, I think we're going to start seeing a lot more opportunities for us to engage, maybe even in a more profitable way, with smaller companies as our own companies, as freelancers, and have the opportunity to really turn what looks like a bad situation with AI into something that could be a profitable situation for us. So, but there's a mindset shift that has to happen there. So if you can do that, then I think going through a project like this is going to be really beneficial, because it'll help us make sure that we think through all the things that need to be done in order to complete the project. And the things that we'll talk about are going to be mostly around this website. right? But there are also things that we need to think about when we're building applications, whether that's a mobile application or a web application, even a desktop application. So these are things that that we need to consider when we're building anything, and they're things that the average vibe coder probably isn't considering. So building these skills is going to help us, again, provide value to this kind of ever-changing and shifting landscape of the developer world. And if you can learn that as a junior developer, that's only going to help you become a better developer in the long run, but also become better with AI. You'll be able to direct it even more quickly and more accurately from the beginning as well. So let's see. Dan says that would be a fun discussion. I do freelance and full-time work. In both situations, AI is being pushed to move faster, and both sent memos to be more careful with what gets pushed to main. Yeah, exactly. Do it. But be careful. Right? Yeah. It's a give and take. It's a learning process. I think that's the big thing that we need to keep in mind right now is we're still very much in a learning process. I saw something the other day. Was it Taylor Otwell? I think it was Taylor Otwell, the creator of Laravel, posted something showing. I think it's Nightwatch is kind of like their thing that shows errors and bugs that come up in production. It showed they had a process where Nightwatch was catching an issue, and then the agent was going in and making a ticket that was then picked up by a coding agent that made the code updates that needed to be made to fix the issue. Another agent reviewed it, got it approved, pushed it to production, and basically the idea was that it was like a self-healing app. Basically, it finds the issues and it fixes the issues and everything is good. Just because we can do that doesn't mean that we should. I think it's cool. I think it's really interesting to see and to be a part of what's happening these days with AI. But I always keep coming back to Jurassic Park, right? If you remember the original if you're old like me and you remember the original Jurassic Park, maybe was it the first one or the second one? I forget. But Malcolm has this phrase where he says, we were so concerned about wondering if we could do something that we didn't stop to think if we should, right? So anytime I see a lot of automation like that, I always get really nervous and I start thinking of that line, we were so consumed with wondering if we could, we didn't stop to think if we should. I think it's the second one now that I think about it. Anyway, so that stuff is cool, but we've got to be careful with it and we've got to do things well. And as a junior developer, a couple of years ago, I was literally telling you, don't do anything with AI. It's not ready yet. Unfortunately, we're at a place where you need to be learning AI as well, but you also need to be learning the basic fundamentals of application development, of coding, so that you know what you're doing and what you're asking AI to do. So you know what it's doing when you're reading through the code. Even if you're not as good of a developer as the AI is, at least you can understand it and maybe see some logical issues, maybe see some things from a broader scope of the application that it's not taking into account. There's so many ways that we need to be having some checks and balances when it comes to AI. So, but yeah, there is a push, for us to incorporate it, for us to use it, and I like that. I think it's good. I think that's where things are going. So we need to be willing to be participants in that, or we will get left behind. So there's that. Dan says, so it's useful and it's also something that needs more consideration than most people are giving it. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's where, if we as software developers have the skills and the knowledge set to then come in and help people find the issues with what they've developed, I just feel like that's the open doors that are coming to us that people haven't really embraced yet. I think a lot of people see them, but I think a lot of people haven't embraced those options as part of their potential future for employment or self-employment. So Dan says, my favorite use of AI at the moment is asking it to read a few files of a code base that I'm unfamiliar with and ask it to explain to me. Yeah. Research, man, AI is so good at research. It's really, really helpful. I use it to research stuff all the time. Use it to write out plans, to research the code base and help me have an idea of what the plan should be to integrate this piece of functionality. I'll be honest with you though, I do find myself leaning more and more on AI to write the code. I tend to lean more of my attention on the planning part. Um, but along with that includes like guardrails about how we do things. One of the cool things that happening right now is skills that really help you even more clearly define how AI does particular tasks. That works with Claude and with with any AI, but Claude and ChatGPT, Codex. So there's a lot of things that you can do, but you've got to make sure that you do them, and that is the thing. You've got to have the guardrails in place to build out the things that you want to build out, and to build them out efficiently, to build them out accurately, and to build them out in a way that's going to be as secure as possible. So yeah. All right, so let's jump over to talking about AI. Let's ignore AI. Dan says, I also like to implement a pattern myself and then say, AI, implement this pattern for the rest of the... Yeah, absolutely. Extra fancy autocomplete. Exactly. No, well, that is, what we're talking about with like skills, is writing the skills with those patterns, with those examples, so that you get the same thing every time. For example, we have certain patterns that we want to follow on like Vue with composables, right? And how we handle composables internally in our company. So we have skills that tell it this is how you write a composable, right? And this is how you do it our way. And our way may be different from other people's way, and that's perfectly fine. But this way, we're getting the code written the way that we want it to be written for the projects that we're doing, right? So I think that's just a perfect way to go about it, frankly. Okay, we're gonna jump over to the Solar Roadways website because I want to talk about. I entitled the live stream today. What did I entitle it? I don't remember. I said there's a title somewhere. I don't know. Something about finding the purpose. Finding the purpose. And you might confuse that by thinking it's finding the purpose and being a developer. No, we're going to talk about this website over here. So let me pull it up. Man, it's it hurts my eyes every time I look at it. So the thing that I want to talk about today is finding the purpose when we are rethinking how we're going to do this website. So one thing that we could do is we could just take the site as is and we could move it to a new platform and copy all the content and have all the same pages and do everything exactly the same. But that's not usually the best thing to do, because a lot of times we build our first product and we're not really building it by asking the right questions. So, and this happens a lot really with websites, probably even more, I think, than with applications. I find this to be something that is much more of an issue with websites, with company websites specifically, is we need to reevaluate what is the purpose of the website. Why do we even have a website, right? And I think for many, many years, the idea, we've always been pushed, you have to have a website. If you have a business, you have to have a website. If you go to devmentordave.com, you're going to see that actually pulls up my YouTube channel. So I don't really have a website anymore. I had one for a brief period of time. We even did some playing around last year with a design. Oh, excuse me. Where we did a WordPress backend with a React, I think, front end, or it might have been a Vue front end. I don't remember. Um, but we have this concept that you have to have a website, and I still think that that is very valid. Um, even even AI will give links to websites and things like that, and so that's a good question, Dan. So I think you still need to have a website, but I think kind of to Dan's question, um, what does that look like moving forward, right? So Dan's asking how long until the question is if you have a business, you have to have an agent. Um, I would say to some degree we're already there. Um, that there's some things that I've been thinking about around that question specifically as to what that would look like when you come to a website or when you go to interact with a business. What does that look like? What does it look like? Well, here's a question for you. And let me put this down since we're talking. So here's a question for you. If it is it you need to have a website, or is it you need to have an MCP? So because and here's where it gets interesting. So do you need an agent, or do you need an MCP, or probably both? But do you need an agent or do you need an MCP so that everyone's personal agents can get the information that it needs from you and interact with you, right? So like if you're not familiar with MCP stands for Model Context Protocol. Basically, it's like the new API for AI agents, right? So an API, an application programming interface, is a way for two different programs to interact with one another, and there are different protocols within that. There's some open standards, but there's also people can create their own standards how they want to do it. And it's kind of the same thing with MCPs, right? So there's some kind of open standards for creating an MCP, which is basically information about how to interact with your application, right? With your agent. So I think that's going to be kind of the more interesting thing is does your company have an agent or an application, agentic application, and then do you have an MCP that other agents can interact with, can pull in and interact with? I think that's going to be probably where things head more, where instead of having websites, it's kind of hard though, because I think there's still always going to be this this interaction with the human, right? And to say you have to have an agent or you have to have an MCP is kind of it's kind of buying into the idea that humans won't interact with things anymore. And I think it'll just be a different way of interacting, right? So a human might interact with your agent or interact with their agent that's interacting with your application or website. There's still going to need to be, I think there's going to need to be progress in how that works. So here's kind of what I've been thinking about. And now we're completely off topic. But that's okay. That's what we're here for. We're here to talk about anything and everything. So what I kind of envision is an agentic website where I come to the website, and depending on how I got there, if I got there through an ad, the agent is going to know that I got there through an ad. And so it's going to know what the ad was about. It's going to know what my intent is as a user coming to a website. Actually, this kind of fits perfectly in with what I want to talk about anyway. When we think about why we have a website or why we have an agent or things like that, what is the why? In the past, a lot of the why was because we wanted to share what we think is important with people, right? We do that even in like these conversations. Like I have a plan for what I wanted to share today, and it's kind of fitting in with our discussion here. But I also want to focus on things that people bring up and have questions about during the live stream, right? Because really the thing that brings people back is not so much me telling them what I want to tell them, it's me helping them find out what they need to know or what they want to know or giving them what they're looking for, right? And so whether we're building a website or whether we're building an agent that is the interaction with that individual, we want to understand why that person is even coming to our website and what the purpose of our website should be. So if our website is if the goal of our website is to bring people in and to cause them to buy something, well, that's gonna we're gonna have a certain focus on there. If the purpose is to educate them about a specific topic, we're going to have probably some different design styles and some different ways of laying out that information, of drawing them in to that. So a lot of it depends on what our goal is as a company in the development of this website or of this agent or of this application, like what our goal is. And then we need to take into account what is the goal, or what is the audience that is going to be coming to this website, right? And what do they want? What are they looking for? And that could be multiple different types of audiences. So let me jump back over here to our website. So when we think about solar roadways, right? There are a number of different types of people that might be drawn to this concept of solar roadways. The first type of person that I can think of off the top of my head would be somebody who is very much concerned about the environment. They're looking for unique solutions that are going to use the energy of the sun or wind or whatever to help power the things that they need to use on a daily basis. So we've got one target audience that could be people who are looking for solutions that help them maybe stay off the grid a little bit more, own their own grid, but do it in such a way so that they're having less of an impact potentially on the environment, that they're deriving the energy from a natural resource like the sun, or renewable resource. I forget how they call that. So that's one type of potential visitor to this website. Another type of a potential visitor to this website could be somebody who's just really interested in technology, right? And they find the technology concept interesting and they want to learn more about the technology. They want to learn how this can actually work, how these panels can connect to one another and interact with one another, how you can put designs and styles, and how you can have messaging even on like a whole area of like a parking lot or something like that. How you could potentially use the weight of a vehicle and that information showing that it recognizes something is on a specific spot or moving through a specific area. Just being able to control what happens on the displays when that happens. Being able to completely rearrange your your layout of parking spots with lights. The ability to have a surface area that is heated when necessary, so that snow and ice doesn't build up, and you have a clean parking lot that not only is cool looking, but keeps it drier. Things like that. So somebody could come here and they're focused less on that, more on the technology and just understanding, seeing what is available, right? Then you might have the person who's coming to this website and they're looking for a real solution that they want to purchase. They actually have these issues. They want to put in a sidewalk, or they want to put in a parking lot or something like that that's going to be self-sustaining, that is going to give them some flexibility, be cool, be unique in their area. So you have the actual customer who wants to buy something. They want to see, what's the process for installing? How much is this going to cost? Things like that. How far out is it? When is this going to be available for purchase? And then kind of the fourth person that might come to a website like this is somebody who really likes the technology, but more than anything, they're looking to invest in something. They're looking to put money into a potential business that could make a lot of money over the coming years. So there's lots of different potential audiences, and we need to take that into account when we're building a website that's a little bit more broad, like a website like this. Now, if, let's say I started a private code coaching business, right? Which it's really funny. It seems like everybody on LinkedIn seems to think that's what I do, because I get tons of messages from people wanting to help me with my coaching business, and I'm like, I don't have any people that I'm coaching. It's just all on YouTube. So sorry, I'm not paying anything. But let's say I did, right? And that's kind of the example website we started to build last year. But if I'm building a coaching business, right, that is a more narrow target of my audience, because it's a more narrow purpose of what I'm trying to do. If I have a business like Solar Roadways, there's a lot more broad purposes. There's more purposes in what I'm trying to put out there, more audiences that I'm trying to reach. If I'm starting a coaching business, there's a very, very small audience that I'm trying to reach. And neither of those things are necessarily wrong. I think it's important for us to state that. It's not wrong to have multiple audiences. It's not wrong to have a very singular, specific audience. It's just that we need to make sure that we're defining who those audiences are, so that we can give them the best experience possible. Now, I will say something like Solar Roadways, where you've got a more broad number of target audiences, we're going to have to do some things to help guide those target audiences to the information that they're looking for, because that's kind of the next step. We know what we're trying to achieve. We want to educate people. We want to encourage people that there are good solutions. We want to help people potentially get the solution. We want to help people potentially invest in something like this and make money over the long term. So we have multiple things, because this is a business that interacts with those different things, right? So the target audience is going to be varied. So we're going to have to make sure that we understand each of those target audiences, understand what they're looking for, and then help direct them to specific things on the website that that helps them find what they're looking for quickly and easily. And this is, again, kind of what Dan was talking about earlier, where I think an agent can start to be really powerful, especially if you've got people coming from advertising and organically, to be able to look at where they're coming from and determine what they're likely wanting to know, right? So let's say, for example, we've got Solar Roadways has right now has a funding campaign. So they have a funding campaign. In this funding campaign, they're raising money so that they can basically move into production. They are at a place where they've done all the research that they're going to do. I mean, they're still doing research, but all the research to get to the place where the product is viable. And so now they're building funding to be able to actually take it to the manufacturer. They have a manufacturer, they have a distributor, ready to go. They just, I think it's more around having the cash to kind of build the first set of panels, really for mass distribution. Um, so, for example, let's say we've got somebody coming from wefunder.com, and they land on the Solar Roadways website. So they clicked on a link from WeFunder over to Solar Roadways. What would be really good is, and we used to have to do this programmatically, right? We used to have to go through and say, hey, if this person's coming from this website, we want to do this, and we'd have to do all of that manually. But now we are rapidly approaching a place where, and may already be there, where you could use an agent who, all it does is it sits there and it looks and sees where the user's coming from. Did they just type it in? If they just typed it in, we're going to give them this information. If they come from wefunder.com, we're going to automatically direct them to this information, or just maybe dynamically display. Maybe we lose a lot more of the links because we're just going to dynamically display information agentically. That's where I think a lot of this stuff is going to go eventually, and maybe we just play with that. I kind of find that really interesting, a really interesting problem to tackle with this. So that might be a direction that we go. But having it, if let's say they're coming from Facebook, if they're coming from Facebook and it wasn't an ad, then they're probably just somebody who they're already a supporter, or they're interested in the technology. If they're coming from an ad, then it would be probably somebody who's looking to purchase, usually. Usually you're going to put ads for people who are going to be purchasing things, not just getting free information, right? So depending on where that person is coming from, we can create some information that helps the LLM, the agent, know this is the type of information that we want to share with them. And maybe that becomes more... See, I'm really getting ahead of myself right now. But maybe that becomes more of a content vector database, that the content is dynamically produced when the user comes, based on the user's intent. That's a really interesting idea. Now that I think about it, and I think it's something that we could actually do, which would be really, really interesting to take this in that direction. But that's the things that we need to think about. We do this with a regular application as well, but for a website, we need to understand why somebody's coming to the website. What is it that they want? Because at the end of the day, for your website, the goal of your website is to keep people there, or to keep people coming back, so that they continue to interact with your product. Whether that's to get signed up for a newsletter, or whether that's to buy something from you, or whether that's just to constantly have your voice in their news feed. Again, there's lots of reasons why you may have that website up, but there's a reason why they're coming to the website, and that's what we need to tap into. When we can tap into what the user cares about, what the user wants, what they're looking for, and when we can deliver on that, then we have a much more powerful website. We have a much more powerful application. And that is probably the biggest struggle that we deal with when it comes to clients and what they want to build. So as we're thinking about this from a freelance standpoint, right? So we're thinking about this from the idea of, hey, I'm going to help these companies. Maybe it's a lot harder to get a job at an actual agency or at a company that hires developers because of AI right now. I need to reach out to these smaller businesses. Well, these are the things that we need to help them understand, that the success of their website, the success of their web application, whatever it is that we're working on, their mobile app, the success of that is not nearly as dependent on the perfection of the application or the website as it is on the perfection of understanding their target audience. And there's a lot of things you could go down and learn from like a psychology standpoint, marketing standpoint. We won't dig into that too much here. I just want us to, as we start thinking about this product, as we start thinking about this transition from this WordPress website to a Laravel application slash website, we need to do it not just in a one-to-one move, but we need to do it in a way that we are understanding who's coming to this website, what do they want, and then looking for, as we've already talked about so far this morning, looking for what are some unique ways that we can engage with the user that makes them want to come back, that makes them get what they're looking for, right? And I don't think it's just as simple as, you know, putting a text box on there and be like, hey, what are you looking for? Why are you here? Right? It'd be nice if you could just do that. But I think there's some opportunities here for us to really fine tune the interaction. And maybe we start off with something very basic. You know, we just have those 4 target audiences. We have a way for them to choose the route that they want to go based on how they get there. And then maybe we start layering in some optional AI interactions as well. I think that's really, really intriguing. And I'm probably going to think about that a whole lot more than I should at the moment moving forward, because I work with AI every day, all day pretty much. And so I tend to start thinking in terms of how can AI be involved in this in a way maybe even that people don't really know. I think that's the cool part is being able to provide an experience where people don't necessarily know that AI is involved. Instead, they're just getting, to use the old Apple phrase, it just works, right? They're just getting what they need what they want when they come to the website. So that's something that we're gonna have to think about as we rebuild this website, those 4 different target audiences, and how we lay out, how we interact with them in those 4 kind of different areas of interest. Because they're going to want to know different things, right? An investor's going to want to know things about the business and the viability of the product and the market that they're currently in, right? Whereas someone looking to buy the product, they want to know costs, they want to know timelines, they want to know site preparation, you know, they want to know those types of things. And so we want to be really good at giving the right people the right information that's going to basically sell them on this company, right? It's going to sell them on the opportunity to invest, to sell them on the product that they're selling. It's going to sell them on the coolness of the for lack of a better term, the uniqueness and coolness of what the product does, you know, to be able to follow them some more. So Dan says maybe you could use AI to generate tags on content and then give a numeric score on how relevant it is to a target, and then you surface that content more promptly. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think now that we've already opened the door to this, I think we're gonna walk through a lot of that stuff, because I think this is, thinking in these terms could really, really impact a lot of companies. I mean, you just think of like a restaurant, right? Think of a restaurant, and you've got, man, I'm giving away all the ideas today. You know, good thing I don't have a very large following. So that's the one nice thing about being small. I can get on here live and talk about things that people can steal, but not very many people will steal them because nobody really watches. It's just me and Dan. But I'm just thinking, so you think about like a restaurant website. Doggone it, I'm going to start building all this crap this afternoon. So having an agent, again, where's the user coming from? What is their intent? Um, how can we get that information? Usually through like the you can usually get some sort of information that's helpful, right? But taking that intent and then turning that into what they're looking to do, right? So taking into account the time of day. You know, if it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon, maybe they're looking for setting up a reservation, right? If it's 11:30 or noon, maybe they're looking to actually make an order, right? So I think there's some nuances in there where when somebody comes to the website, like let's 11:30 and the website says, hey, are you looking to make an order for lunch? And it just drops them into the menu, and the menu is agentically driven as well. Doggone it, there's so many ideas. Hmm. Claude and I are going to have fun this afternoon, I think. $1 million app idea. Tune your wife's I don't know where I want to eat into restaurant recommendations in your area. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, I'm just thinking about like interaction, right? Interaction with the user. I think that's the key is how can we interact with the user in such a way that we give them what they want, what they're looking for. It's all about reducing friction, right? Reducing the amount of friction that it causes to get to where I want to go. So, and again, a lot of this isn't mind reading. It's just reading what's going on, right? What the user's doing, what time of day it is. So like if you have a restaurant app that automatically can deduce this person's going to lunch, well, we're going to bring up our lunch specials. We're going to bring up the lunch menu. These are the things that people are probably looking for. Having an agent that can recommend, pairings of things, building stuff. I don't know. Sorry, my brain is just kind of going off into the sphere of, thinking of business opportunities that I'll never actually get off the ground, but maybe somebody will steal and make lots of money. So there you go. But that's the thing though. So understanding who our audience is, and that should drive then how we interact with them. That should drive how we present information, how we sell to them, things like that. So I definitely think that we're going to now that we've talked about this, I definitely think we're going to put some AI into this process. I should have assumed that we would anyway, but not just from a development standpoint, but put AI into it to really turn it into something that is better than any website out there. I mean, I don't know. Let's see, I'm getting way ahead of myself. Anyway, that's where we're going. So if you want to be a part of the process of building and learning along the way as we write code or as we have Claude write code or things like that, we'll see how that works. I think we will lean a little bit more on Claude writing the code so we can talk and discuss things, and talk about, evaluating things like that. And it'll just be faster to build out the ideas that we want. I mean, we're living in that world, so let's live in that world. But anyway, so if you're interested in being part of that, leave a comment on here or jump in the Discord server. Again, I'm not in the Discord server very often, but I do see stuff as if people post. If you DM me in Discord, I will see that. So let me know that you want to be a part of that. If you don't already have access to one of our previous projects on GitHub, send me your GitHub username, and I'll get you added to a project once I get something created for this. So Dan says, I like to think of how I could put AI into things, and then I like to follow that idea up with the question, could I accomplish the same thing without AI? That's a really good question, actually. Can you accomplish the same thing without AI? Oftentimes you can. Sometimes it's a matter of using AI to just define a very clear decision engine. You know, um, for example, you you might be able to write something that takes 200 milliseconds to do to run through a decision engine, right? But it's going to take 2 seconds for AI to take that information, think about it, find the right thing to do, and then make it happen. And if you were dealing with a situation, especially a situation where maybe the user you're interacting with a user, 2 seconds is a long time to wait uh, compared to 200 milliseconds, right? Even if now there is a caveat there because I think people realize that AI takes a moment, and I think we're kind of used to that now. We're used to waiting on AI, but I mean, speed speed kills. If you can do things faster, and do it with the same accuracy, then I mean, that's going to be a better experience for people. So AI is awesome, but it's not the perfect solution for everything. I think there's some cool things that we can use AI to write out code that runs faster than AI would in a lot of ways. But there might be things. For example, last night I was working on a process for one of our clients where to have it work manually, the process would have over 100 different um, variations that you would have to code for and that you would have to keep up to date, right? So hundreds of variations that you would have to manage over time. Or we can set it up to where AI has an understanding of all the different scenarios and can then make a determination as to what to do in each of those different scenarios based on the information that's coming in. So in that instance, AI makes more sense, not just now for speed of development, but also long term for being able to update it easier. We're updating prompts rather than updating 100 plus um, templates of processes potentially. So there are ways, obviously, that AI is just going to be better, but there are times where it just makes more sense to build out the logic and let the logic run. Sometimes it's not even a matter of speed. Sometimes it's just a matter of accuracy. If you're dealing with numbers, if you're dealing with math, you probably want to make that much more code dependent. Maybe it's a tool that AI uses, but code is much better at handling math than LLMs are. That's just a known fact, unfortunately. So it's not just a matter of throwing AI into everything. We also need to be judicious and find the right solutions for AI, not just the cool ones, because that also makes your app insecure at times or inaccurate. I saw somebody post recently that they had used AI in an application that they had, and they had made a bunch of decisions, like strategic company decisions, based off of numbers that AI was pulling out. And there was a question about one of them. So this person went back and they started investigating just to make sure things were right, and found out that basically the AI had just been giving them positive numbers for like months, and nobody had gone back and validated if the numbers were accurate, and they made all these business decisions based off of these positive numbers. And yeah, not I don't think it was necessarily like they were in deep trouble, but that's the thing. We've got to use AI wisely, not just stick it in everything. So definitely want to have that conversation as well as we think through what are some ways that we could use AI in this website to help solar roadways interact with their audience, their different audiences, the way that their audiences want to be interacted with. So anyway, that is kind of the main thing I wanted to talk about this morning, especially as we get into more more writing code and things like that. These will get a little bit longer, but we might keep them shorter here over the next few weeks, just to as we get into the project, especially as we get some other people involved. I know we've got others who typically would jump on here. Thanks, Dan, for jumping in. So we'll see if we can get some more feedback on that as well. But yeah, thanks for joining me, Dan. If you're watching this later, thanks for watching all the way through an hour, if you did, or if you skipped around, good for you. But hopefully you're getting an idea of where we're going with this project. If you're interested, leave me a comment below, send me a DM in the Discord server or something like that, and I'll make sure and get you added to the project once I get that up and running. And we start having something that will actually start writing some code. And I do want to go through these thought experiments and through these planning processes, though, because I think it's really important that we understand how to do that well, even before we start talking about like designs and things like that. Like, we want to have a good plan of what we're actually trying to accomplish with this website before we start building it out. So thank you for watching this video. If you're watching it later or jumping on, Dan, and joining me live, feel free to join me. We should be here, I believe, next Saturday at 10 a.m. Central United States time. Right now, still only going to be going on YouTube. We might spin up the what's the other one? I can't even remember the name of it. Twitch. We might spin up Twitch again at some point. But for now, I'm just trying to keep things simple as we get back into the process here of our Saturday live streams. I do have a series idea that I'm going to hopefully be able to shoot here over the next few weeks and get that up for people interested in becoming a developer. Kind of maybe a new way of approaching that for them. But we'll see how that goes. So thanks again. Have a great weekend, guys. I will see you most likely next Saturday. Until then, take care.